probably. When he was in my class, he was like this big. So now he's like 9 feet tall. All right. So first things first, hello. My name is Donnie Piercy. I'm currently in my 19th year of teaching elementary school. I teach at Ashland Elementary School, which is in Lexington, Kentucky. I like to think of us as like the best kept secret in all of the city of Lexington. We're small and we're public school. We're very small. It's a neighborhood school. I worked in Eminence, Kentucky. That's where I met Truman for a couple of years. And I live in the Kenwick neighborhood in Lexington, which you know anything about that. We're small. But a position opened up at Ashland Elementary, which is literally right at the end of my street. And I just decided, well, let's apply, see if we can get a job there. Got the job, so it's been kind of cool, like living and working in my neighborhood. And I've learned, anybody like teach in the same neighborhood that they work in? I didn't realize how much fun Halloween would be, right? When the kids show up at your house. That was super cool. But before we get started, let me kind of show you how to get to these resources. So if you go to that link, right there, resources.mrpiercy.com. Watch the spelling of my last name. I've got a really hard to spell last name, /podcasting, because that's kind of how we do the storytelling piece along with this. But if you go to resources.mrpiercy.com and just that first part right there, that's in the resources for this workshop. So, but then if you do the /podcasting, it'll take you to this specific link. Now, I do need to, just to kind of get this out in the open, this is usually like a 3-hour workshop that I do for schools in the summertime. So I had a choice to make. I could either talk really, really fast and try to cover everything over the course of 3 hours, or over the course of the next like 48-ish minutes or so that we have. But rather than do that, I figure I'd kind of slow down a little bit, focus on just the key points, but still give you the same slides and everything, just so that way we have, you kind of have access to those things. Sorry, it's kind of acting wonky there. But is everybody able to get to the resources? If you click on the one that's in the app for the workshop, it'll take you here, right? It'll kind of take you to the main page, which looks something like this. But then up the top, you'll see where it says podcasting, right? You'll see where it says podcasting. If you click that, it'll take you to this particular sessions. Why is that clicking weird? Sessions resource. But this right here, this is the slideshow we'll kind of be using. Feel free to copy it, change your name or my name to your name, take it back to your schools and be like, look at this resource I put together for you. But long story short, let's go ahead and let's jump into this. So I've been teaching now, like I said, for 19 years. And I learned something very, very early into my teaching career. It's that, oops, sorry, I got the wrong link pulled up here. Notice I'm clicking all over the place. There it goes. I've got to click links, so I'm going to have this pulled up here. I learned something a long time ago when it comes to teaching. It's that every kid really loves a story. But it's a little bit more than that because, I mean, let's be honest, there's sometimes as a teacher, I still do read-alouds with my students every single day. It's just that every kid loves a good story. And so one thing that I've tried to do over my career is try to find, like, what is a story that I can have my students connect with? And, I still do, like, read-alouds, but I've always kind of done that in my classroom. Sometimes we'll do like follow-up questions. Sometimes we'll do like, try to connect it to, not sometimes, always try to connect it to the content and things that we're teaching. But a few years ago, I stumbled across this podcast. Has anybody ever heard the podcast 6 Minutes before? Okay, so if you've listened to it, don't play spoilers. Don't be that guy. But I stumbled across this podcast. My daughter, who's now she's going into 8th grade next year. My daughter was listening to this and I said, hey, that sounds kind of cool. What is it? And she said, oh, it's this podcast called 6 Minutes. It's a mystery. And she said, well, every episode is about 6 minutes long. You should really listen to it with your class. And I was like, all right, so I'll try it. I'm elementary school teacher, so we have snack time every day, which I used to like, and now it's just Takis every day, which those things are nasty. But I said, like, well, tell you what, tomorrow during snack time in my classroom, while the students are eating, instead of them just kind of like staring awkwardly or like licking their fingers and do all that, how about I have them like put all devices away and we just turn off the lights and play a story. I used to do it where it was. I used to do it where I would just plug my phone in. I just play the podcast directly from there. But I learned that a lot of these podcasts and things, these old school radio dramas, they're available online, like on YouTube. And that's something which I could pull up. And also with YouTube, you've got closed captions as well. So if students want to read along, they can do it. So I'm actually going to break one of the big rules right now of when you present. Because I've learned that, the best way to experience a story and for people to get, and, people that attend your sessions to kind of get you kind of have to have them experience one on their own. So the rule that I'm going to break is I'm actually going to let you listen to the first episode of 6 minutes. Remember, it's 6 minutes long. Right? It's 6 minutes long. Is it 60 minutes long, class? No, 6 minutes long. I'm going to turn the closed captions on, and I'm going to run this exactly the same way that I would if you were in my classroom while you're eating snacks. So have like your Takis out, your gluten, dairy-free, double stuffed Oreos, whatever it is. But I'm going to play this episode. Now, as I play this, I want you to be listening. Right. And before every episode, I always have my students, I always do a quick summary of what happened in the previous episode. I find for a lot of them that helps them stay engaged with the story. But I'm going to press play on this. And then as you're listening, right, the best way to describe this show or this story, anybody watch the TV show Lost when it was on? All right. So if you liked Lost, or at least the first 4 seasons of Lost. We won't talk about the final seasons. If you liked Lost, this is the show for you. I learned that the head writer on it, his favorite show was Lost, and he actually based a lot of this on based a lot of the show on this. But it is the most addictive story that I've ever seen, because what happens when you play a good story for your students, they want to keep listening. They want to, it's almost like, next video kind of thing. Can we listen again? How about snack time today is 12 minutes, Mr. Piercy? So I'm going to press play on this. And then I know I'm breaking one more time all the rules of when you present, but there's really no way to have you all understand how cool this is unless you experience for yourself. So I'm going to press play. I'm going to turn the closed captions on so you can have it. So way we can turn it up. It won't go, my volume's up all the way.
There are kids in this world who are different, special. They look like us and they act like us, but they are not us. And one of them is missing.
Thanks for choosing Marine Adventures, Alaska's oldest whale-watching tour. Migratory humpback whales.
I know twice as much as this lady.
You know you do, honey.
Dad, did you know that the humpback whale's brains have a neuron cell that's also found in humans?
I didn't know that, Cyrus.
And he didn't really care either.
That's not nice, Bertie. Your brother loves science.
So does your mother, by the way. It's why she became a doctor.
But I don't want to learn about whale brains. I want to see a whale.
I'm sure we'll see one soon, Bertie.
Maybe that helicopter scared them all away.
I read online that the scientists at Whittier are actually using whale cells to experiment with human evolution.
Don't believe everything you read.
But wouldn't it be epic if...
Hold that thought, Cy.
Daddy, you said you were going to turn off your phone on the boat.
Sorry, sweetheart. I have to take this. Hello? Yes, Admiral Grayling. What kind of activity?
Doesn't the government ever take a day off?
No, I understand. Yes, of course. Monica, honey, can you come inside the cabin for a second?
Sure. Be right back, guys. See how many whales you spot before we get back.
Did that seem weird to you?
What? Did Dad got a work call? He's always getting work calls, especially since we moved.
Then why did he ask Mom to come with him?
Who cares? I can't see anything from down here.
Birdie, what are you doing?
Looking for whales.
Trust me, if there's a whale, you'll see it. You're not supposed to climb the railing.
Then I'm gonna get nice and close. Look him right in the blowhole and see. Whoa!
Bert! Birdie! Stop the boat! Hang on, Birdie! I'm throwing the life preserver. Grab onto it and don't let go. Swim to it. Good, Bird, good. Hang on.
Cyrus, what's going on?
Where's Birdie?
She's in the water.
What?
She fell in. Help me pull her up.
Go. Pull. Keep pulling.
Hang on, Birdie!
Girl,
What?
there's a girl floating in the water.
She's right. There's a girl out there. Look.
What?
Cyrus, what are you doing? Cyrus!
I'm going in.
Cyrus! Come back! Cyrus! Cyrus, swim back to the boat!
She's alive!
Her pulse is weak, but she's breathing. My name is Dr. Anders. Can you hear me?
How old is she? 10? 11?
How did she get out there? There are no other boats around. Where did she come from?
Is she a mermaid?
She doesn't have any ID. How long was she floating out there?
Hello? What's your name? Can you hear me? Who are you?
Holiday?
Paging Dr. Strauss. Dr. Strauss to the ER.
Check her vitals again and let me know if anything has changed.
Yes, Dr. Anders.
Mom, is Holiday going to be all right?
Holiday?
That's what she said on the boat. It must be her name, right?
You two must be freezing. You're still wet.
We're fine. Where is she?
She's resting in that exam room.
Has she said anything else?
She hasn't woken up since we put her in the ambulance.
Cyrus, Birdie, you guys wait out here.
Why can't we go in and see her?
She's not ready for visitors.
But you're going in.
Please stay with your sister.
Mom,
What is it, Cyrus?
what's that marking on her left hand?
I didn't notice any marking. We'll be out soon.
I can cover up the marking with a bandage.
Good. I called around. There's nothing out there about a missing girl.
She looks so peaceful lying there. It's a miracle she survived, James.
Since when do you believe in miracles?
Sooner or later, someone's going to come looking for her. You know that.
What's happening?
She's in distress. I can give her something to calm her down.
Wait. I think she's waking up.
Can you hear me? Do you know where you are? Holiday?
What happened?
You're in the hospital.
Hospital?
Do you know how you got here?
No. What's going on? Why can't I remember anything?
It's okay, honey. You're safe now. You were in an accident.
Are you my parents?
Are weird.
Yes. Yes, sweetheart. Of course we are. We are your mom and dad.
Man, I've probably listened to that first episode probably like 30 times by this point, and still just the foreshadowing, the questions, the character development. And if you've never listened to it before, now imagine that you're an 8-year-old kid. You're going to want to see, well, what's next, right? What happens after that? And so for the longest time, for the longest time, I would, I just play this for my students, blah, blah. And then my principal came in when they said, hey, that's really cool. but can we figure out like some type of like follow-up questioning, or something that after they listen to an episode, just if anything else, like to try to tie it to content or some of the things that you're teaching. So in keeping with tradition, when people challenge me, I tend to be like, all right, I'll show you how to do that. If you're interested, if you go to this link, bit.ly/6minutes slides. So if you go to that link, right, what I did was I actually put every single episode on a slide. It's like one big giant slideshow. The series now it's at season 4. But if you want, you can go file, make a copy, and grab this. But how it works is because I was having the hardest time. Like I would always like write on the board what episode we were on next. But what I did was I have, again, if you're in full screen, it looks like this. But so what I did was I've got, it's episode 1, season 1, episode 1, have the title of the episode. The YouTube links in the middle, so that way you can just click closed captions. You know what I mean? You can play that if you want. But then on the slide after each one, right? I came up with like 4 or 5 follow-up questions for each episode, and things about those things that you're trying to connect to content. Questions about theme, questions about making predictions, questions about like, I don't know, why do you think the parents are acting so mega sus, as my 9-year-olds in my room say? But anyway, just questions to get them thinking about it, right? And sometimes I might like copy and paste one of these questions, throw it in Google Classroom, have them do like a quick, answer to it to kind of collect them all together. But hey, sometimes it's 9:51 and we've got to get started with whole group math. So it's just more like just like a whole class discussion. And if you've never listened before, like sometimes if you don't know, like kind of what happens next, it's really hard as an adult, even when you're listening to a good story like this one, all right, guys, do you guys want to listen to one more episode? Yeah, I think we need one more. Let's go ahead. And when you jump to the next episode, when you go to the next slide, same deal. That's the YouTube link with the captions and stuff in there, followed by it. But if you want to steal that, grab that for your own, feel free to. You can make some copies, edit it around, do what you want with it. But I got a question. As you were listening, like imagine that you're an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, or 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, listening to these stories for the first time. Like when you heard that, what questions popped into your head? Legit, you can shout out loud if you want. Oh, hi, Holly. Sorry, I just noticed you there. I know, sorry, yeah. Yeah. Can we trust the parents, right? Great question. Like, I don't know. Why was that marking on her hand? What was the marking, right? Other questions? Why is she in the water? Did you hear that helicopter that flew over? We talk a lot about, we're showing students and, author's purpose and, like, hey, that was kind of strange, wasn't it? Like, why do you think they had that helicopter sound? I wonder if that has something to do with something that's going to happen later. Why doesn't she have a memory? Why doesn't she remember that? And my students, I've kind of trained them to say, because it'd be really boring if she knew everything. It's like, okay, well, I get that. Same deal with like Harry Potter, right? I mean, if Harry just said, hey, I'm hearing like some weird snakes in the walls, can you do something about that? Wouldn't be a good story. But anyway, so if you want some of those, I've got this here. I even worked, if you want some more stuff, right? Because again, I know sometimes we see like, can I have some more stuff? If you click over here, like this is a screen grab, but it's actually a hyperlink to like the company. They've actually put together tons of resources for teachers where, you can, they've got listening guides, explore boards, like after each episode, if you finish the series, if you just want to like kind of maybe your librarian, like I love this idea of doing this, but then you want to have your students maybe like do some follow-up activities. But here's the deal. So it like started with this. And, as any teacher, like, especially here at like Kisti, anytime that your students start listening to these, there's some other ones that GZM or the company Gen Z Media put together. They have a great one called The Hollow, which is kind of like a modern retelling of the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Instead of being like each episode in this is about 15 to 20 minutes long. I mean, the 8 days leading up to Halloween every year, we actually listen to the episodes. What I do, right, because I do think it's important for students, if you're connecting this to content, hey, guess what? Teach reading. You got to have students reading. GZM has actually like provided all the scripts to this series, right? So if you click this link right here and kind of open this up, I've put together, right? If you just want this, again, I know it's not Halloween season now, but it's also nearing the end of the school year when it's like, hey, we need something to do. Where I've put together a slideshow, just like I did before. There's only 8 episodes in this one, but there's also follow-up questions after each one. And if you want, right, I even have every episode, like I've made them where they're little booklets, where it's like the actual legit script. So, when you look at it as a PDF, it kind of looks like this. Oh, sorry, come on, load. There you go. It kind of looks really wonky, but it's designed where when you print it off and just kind of fold it together, it's a little tiny booklet. And at the end of each episode, sorry, that's not the right one. In this folder, there you go. In this one, at the end of each episode, there's just some follow-up questions that I created for the students to answer, right? We have to go look in the text, all those things that we do. But, the idea is they follow along. Maybe you give them something. Hey, guys, as you're listening, look for some details that support the theme of blank. And then at the end, you can talk through it as a little script and have them, write it and literally turn in the script too. You can have them flip through. But anyway, so just throwing some ideas out there of different ways that I try to bring this kind of old school radio drama, which again, it's really just a podcast. But what I've learned, because I've had a school podcast before, actually, when Holly and I worked together. Hi, Holly. It's good to see you. Really, we need to chat afterwards. But like when Holly and I worked together, we had a school podcast. We called it All Things Everywhere, which I learned. We put it on a Blogger. Remember Blogger? So cool. I miss Blogger. We just put it on there. It's just like it was a news report. It was what's going on in sports. It was, the weather, which again, if students are creating and they're actively talking about that, that's totally cool, right? Because we're getting them to share their voice. We had to teach them editing skills. We had to do all that. But what I've learned is that students, there's certain types of students that they just love just fiction storytelling. And a story like 6 Minutes or, there's hundreds of these things that exist. Like students not only want to listen to those, but students very, very quickly, they also want to start creating their own, right? Think of how many students in your classroom where, when, again, you'll have some students like, no, I don't want a speaking part, but I guarantee you'll have 10 to 15 students if you're reading those plays, and sometimes they're really canned plays and those, those textbooks and things, but you have those 5 or 10 students that they want every part. Can I be student number 1? Can I also be student number 2? Can I be narrator 1, narrator 2? And I've learned especially for those type of students, not only do they want to listen to the stories, but they also want to write them too, right? They also want to write them too. And I've found that, it just tends to engage your students. Sometimes you might have those students who they just want to sit down and write, or they just want to sit down and listen. And one thing that I've learned, especially if you use a really addicting podcast like 6 Minutes, you have to, on the first day of school, have them raise their right hand and promise that they will not Google what holiday is or who holiday is. Because we talk about, hey, nobody likes the spoiler person. Like nobody wants to be like guys like, hey, did you know that she was dead the whole time? Huh? Right? No one wants that person. But, it tends to create a level of engagement, even for that student who you don't think is listening. When we have those follow-up discussion questions at the end of each episode, whether it's, a podcast like 6 Minutes or The Hollow, I've learned the students, they want to answer, right? They want to chime in. So they can get very engaged. I've learned, like when you're doing, when you're having students like do some of those follow-up activities, or if you just have like good questions to ask. As classroom teachers, we know the content, especially those of us who have taught for more than 5 or 10 years. We've heard all those RI standards, all those RL standards. We've heard them 1,000 different ways. We've broken them down. We've deconstructed. We built them up again. We did all that. So sometimes it's as teachers, we can just be creative and figure out unique ways that students can listen to a story, Or maybe like with the Hollow, you print off a copy of the script, have them read it, and then come up with some follow-up activities. Maybe they, write and record their own. Maybe they like actually create and draw out some things. Or hey, maybe they just do some quick sketches and then write up a sentence or two, like making a prediction about what they think will happen next. And then once you move to the, well, how do we actually go about like creating these stories? Once you move to that piece, that's when it goes from just listening to actually becoming engaged with the story, where they want to create and write and start to like, hey, I love this story. I love this idea. How can we go ahead and actually create one of these on our own? And if you're looking at this picture of my students on the left there, and it's like, boy, that looks like a really canned photo. What did you have them do? Like point at a script that they wrote and then smile? Yes, that's exactly what I did in that photo. But I thought it was kind of fun. But and then ultimately, that's my daughter, by the way. She's going in the 8th grade next year, which is terrifying. But but when students actually get to talk and share, they learn how to communicate. And sometimes it might be through that, just like that podcast where it's like they're just talking about the weather, or they are figuring out how to hold a conversation with somebody, but figuring out how they can communicate, how they can talk with others, right? So, big question. Like, okay, so I think you guys are pretty, you're in on the, I know how to press play, right? You know how to have them listen and become engaged with a story. So, how can you actually start to have your students create their own old school kind of radio dramas? And, there's 1,000 ways to do it. I have kind of like a step-by-step guide. I've got resources and things in here that if you want to grab some of these and use these on your own, you're more than welcome to. But this is how I go about doing it in my classroom. So first thing you want to do is like figure out like, okay, just like with any piece of writing, you want to start with a plan, right? And what I've learned with a lot of students, like that plan, they might have never actually seen what a Hollywood script looks like before. The only type of podcast or piece of writing that they may have seen would be those kind of canned plays that you'll read, or if like your school puts on like a show every year, they'll kind of see that they're used to seeing it like that. But because these are audio dramas, they have to learn how to do things like when they write, like you can't just assume that people know you're in a classroom. There has to be sound effects and things that you include in the script. So that way somebody knows, this is the setting of this episode, it's in a classroom. Or, they don't know what the characters' names are. Hey, guess what? In that first episode of the podcast that you write, you got to figure out some way where the characters can talk to one another, where they say the characters' names 4,000 times, so that way they know who the characters are. So I've got a few things here, right? Again, this is what I do. There's 1,000 different ways you could do this. One thing that I discovered, especially if you run like an STLP or you have a thing like that, or if you, maybe have like a club or something like a podcasting club, storytelling club, there's actually this podcast that it's kind of meta, but it's designed for kids. And the idea behind the podcast is it's a podcast that teaches kids how to make a podcast, right? It's about, again, I don't know how many episodes they actually ended up finishing at. I want to say it's about 10 to 15 episodes altogether, but it's called Podcast Title Pending. And it's literally, you listen to the episode. They have like actual writers on there talking about, just what's the first step? How do you add sound effects to editing, to, even making revisions, to even stuff like voice acting and what kind of microphone do you need, right? So, that's one thing. They even created for you, thought this was kind of cool. Like they even have like a notebook and things that you can check out. But, that's one route that you can go. For me, like I try to tie this into writing, right? Because creative writing, I do feel like is an important part of this. And, I love me some Google and Google Slides. So I've created a kind of podcast storytelling graphic organizer right here. And so again, it's the idea is it's a template. So if you want this, you can just go File, make a copy, pass it out to your students in Google Classroom, that make a copy for each student button. And then what this is, it's intentionally short, but this is not like the actual screenwriting piece where they actually go into a Google Doc or maybe they handwrite it out and do it this way. It's just, hey, before you get in groups and start to write your podcast, you got to have some kind of plan. Listen, I'm not opposed to pencil and paper. I've learned in math class, especially pencil and paper is so much more important than just clicking random things in IXL. But at the same time, like it's just sometimes it's easier to do the collaboration piece if they're, all on the same Google slide as a group. But the template itself, like the first slide just says your pitch, where in groups, right, they have to come up with a name of their podcast. What's it going to be called? Lost to, Electric Boogaloo, I don't know. Come with a name. And then in here, like they actually have to write up a pitch. Like, hey, what is your podcast going to be about? And you tell them like, hey, imagine that I have $1 million where I could fund this podcast right now. And I could, do everything and walk you through all the steps. What would you call it, right? Can you sell me on this idea? So basically they just replace this and you say like, well, just like with the hook of a good story, like the first line of a book, you don't want to like unwrap the mystery, right? Because we talk about how a lot of times, I know I joked about Lost earlier, but sometimes with a podcast or a story, especially on TV, they claim they know what they were doing, but really it's like, you guys had no idea how the story is going to end. You have to kind of figure it out as you go. So in here, they just replace that text with their hook. How many episodes do you think the show is going to be? Especially at the elementary school level, please don't make them put, it's got to be 50 episodes. Because when kids realize that like a 6-minute script is 8 pages long, right? So, be real with here. And then, how long do you think each episode will be from start to finish? And then just brief summary, like, hey, what happens first? What happens second? What happens third? Right? Think beginning, middle, end. And I usually say like start with 3. First one, what's the problem? Why isn't the internet working at school? Next, the culprit, maybe it's like a Scooby-Doo thing. You think it's going to be this person, but then something shocking happens. And then finally, how is the mystery solved in episode 3, right? So they kind of go and just in groups kind of collaborate, fill this out. I put a thing on here for like the cast of characters. They don't have to do this part, but again, this helps them think about like character descriptions. Like I do help them a lot with this because especially in 4th and 5th grade, even 3rd, even higher if your elementary school has 6th graders in it. I have learned that it's hard for kids to describe a character, say girl, blonde hair, So, okay, well, is she curious? Is she kind? Do lots of examples, maybe from a story that you're reading. How would you describe this character? Put some words on the board, have them go through. I intentionally they're not allowed to put themselves in a story or any of their classmates. So I just have them kind of make up names. But you can do first, last name. And then, hey, what happens in episode 1? What happens in episode 2? What happens in episode 3? Just a pre-writing activity. I don't expect this to be in all, complete sentences and things like that, except for the pitch, because it's really just them thinking through their idea, right? Once it's done, they just tell me, and then I take a look at it. Yep, that looks good. You guys are ready to start writing, right? You guys are ready to start writing. So then, let me kind of go here. Kind of the next step is the actual writing piece. Again, I'm not opposed to pencil and paper. Honestly, there's some students that they actually write faster than they type in elementary school. This kid that's like, hey, you have 2 hands and 10 fingers. Please practice using them. But on this link, see this little picture right here? If you need a template for kids to practice writing on, if you click this, there's this little box to type. Oops, why didn't that work? Oh, yeah, I forgot. It always does this weird thing now. If you click that, it's just a simple template that's designed to look like a Hollywood title script. So, what's the title of your podcast or your story? Put your name here. who are the characters. You just have them copy and paste from that to there. And then the second page is, tell me about the first episode 1, scene 1. What happens in it? And again, I tried to make it look like a real Hollywood script where it's, the character's name, and then, we talk about like directions, right? Where those things come from. And then what do the characters say, right? Don't expect this to be perfect. It's not, okay? I do like 6 minutes in that it's a fantastic exemplar for what like a finished one would look like. But at the same time, they're 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. Like they just want to tell a story. Does that make sense? So it is important that, don't expect perfection from the start, but it's more, especially at the elementary school level, just having them quickly in that first episode, what's the problem? Maybe in episode 2, how is that, what things happen that start to lead towards the solution? And then that final episode, hey, how is that problem solved, right? How is that problem solved? So once that's done, right? Once their episode is finished, and I usually do this one episode at a time, like I do just in terms of the, how are we doing on time? We're good. Oh, cool. I can do this. After I do that, to me, like the next step is to do just like they do, like on any podcast, any TV show, like you have the kids get together before they record anything and do what's called a table read. And why do you think it's called a table read? What do they sit around a table and just read their parts? Yes, that's exactly what they do, right? That's exactly what they do. So I'll tell you what, we have time. We can do this. I have 6 minutes. It will not take that much time. Let's just say 45 seconds. There you go. Why did I write toe? All right. So here's what I want you to do, right? If you have your phones, you see that QR code right there? Or if you got this slideshow pulled up, you can click this. Just once, that way you don't have to listen to my nasally voice all the time. But if you've got this pulled up, does the QR code work with little TVs like that? Does it work? I actually don't know if it does or not. Whew, okay. Where I can like zoom in on it and try to frame it within the little TVs there if you want. But what I want you to do, I'll give you, let's say 2 minutes. If you scan that on your phone, it should pull up a little podcast script. Do you see it? Did it work? Turn to the person next to you. If it's a friend of yours, say, hey, what's up? He's going to make us talk. Yes, I am. Or if you don't know the person, say, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. It's nice to meet you. Or if you've got the slideshow open, you can also just click this and it pulls up. We're going to just do a practice table read. Right now, again, I'm pretending that this is the real script that you and your students have written. I wrote, I'll be honest, I had AI write this, but it's supposed to be like 2 teachers talking at the end of a long school day. This is just practice. Like if this was your students, you would have them, read their script. Sometimes I'll sit in on those table reads when they happen, just so that way I can give some real-time feedback. But with the person next to you, choose what type of what dialect we're reading this in. If you want it to be like Kids Today, Gen Alpha, it's on this one. Bruh, today was mad wild. If you want to do like a Shakespearean style, verily, today hath been a most peculiar day, you can use that one. If you're millennials, it's on fleek educators right here. Although I did learn that I am not a millennial. I was born in 82, so I'm technically what's called a geriatric millennial. Yes, that is actually what we're called. Anyway, if you want to do that one, you do this one. But long story short, just because I think that it's important for you to see what this is like, with a person next to you, kind of choose which one of these you want to do. And I'm just going to have you do a quick 45-second table read with the person next to you. And then choose which one of those scripts you want to do. And then in 1 minute, we'll talk about after you do the table reads, everybody's ready for episode 1. What do you actually use for the recording part? All right. So again, I know I had this set at 6 minutes, but I'm going to back this, just skip ahead here. So there's just 2 minutes left. And then I'll let y'all do a quick table read and go. There it is. Lisa, I'm Don.
Nice
Very
to
nice to
meet
meet
you.
you. Thank you. I was like, all right, want to do one real quick? Oh, hang on, I want my phone up there. Go me. Yeah, let's do that.
Where was it?
Let's click that. Oh, no, go down. That one. There. Yep. Click that. Yep. Click that guy. All right. You ready? Let's just do Gen Alpha for kids today. You can be teacher one. I'll be teacher two. You ready? All right. School bell rings, sound effects, and think they're seeing like, oh, this is what needs to go in the script. And you ready? You'll be teacher one.
Bro, today was mad mom.
Oh, on God, it was. These kids got that riz from Ohio.
For real. And did you see that Trevor Ewing man's out there thinking he's so Sigma?
Brought a straight up skibbity toilet.
No cap. This class has got me feeling all sorts of things. Like, what the Sigma?
Big facts. But tomorrow's another day. But today was just the chef's kiss.
Absolutely. I got a dip though.
Bet. Stay lit, fam. All right, whatever. Bet. No cap. I think my favorite Gen Alpha saying, I love Phantom Tax. You know what Phantom Tax is? That's my favorite one. All right. All right. Head on back. Again, that was just for fun. One, because when I go to sessions, I hate just sitting there the whole time and never get a chance to talk. I feel you on that. But again, that's kind of the next step, because before they record, before they get to like the editing piece of it, where they have to record and edit. And by the way, I do recommend, like, you, especially the elementary school level, when you first start doing this, I think it's important that you just help them with the editing. You know what I mean? The help them, meaning you do most of it, but you're kind of walking them through how it works, right? And I know for some of us that step might be difficult, but if you've never done it, any of it before. But as far as like the question, like, okay, so what do you need to actually record a podcast, right? What do you need? Well, my answer to that is always, well, whatever works, right? If you have a school budget, maybe you get it through STLP, and you've got, a couple $1,000s that you're allowed to spend. I know, again, my school, that's not, I mean, we have some, but definitely not that much. Hey, cool. Go out and buy those fancy microphones. I'll show you some of the ones. Like, I'll show you what we bought for our class. That works, right? But guess what? If your students have just one iPad or one Chromebook, there's a couple of apps I'll show you in a second that all you need is access to the internet, and students can use that to record. Heck, you can even have them, if you really just wanted to get audio of them talking, you could, on the Chromebooks, you could hit the camera button, which has a record feature, set the Chromebook down in the middle of the table, have all the kids sit around it with their parts printed out, and just have them perform it, right, from start to finish. And then, later you can go back and look at, maybe they upload that to Drive or Classroom, share that with you. Sometimes you as a teacher has to help like that. But again, the students, once their stories are done, they want to share that story. They want to share that story with somebody. So my answer to that question is, man, do we need to go out and spend thousands of dollars? I mean, you can, right? I mean, there's nothing that says you can't. Like, kids do think it's cool if they've got those $500, headphones, and we've got this $300 microphone and all this. But at the same time, like, hey, I know as public school teachers, we make millions of dollars a year. That was a joke. We should, but we don't. We don't always have the budget. But at the end of the day, the students, they just want to tell a story, right? And they want to tell their story that they that they wrote. These are, I get asked like, well, what apps, if you're going to recommend some apps, some of these are paid, right? And honestly, some of these are just small companies with like 4 or 5 people in it. People ask like, what can you use? This used to be, Anchor FM, like that was an old school podcasting app, storytelling app. Literally, you would just set the iPad down on the table, press record, and have everybody speak their parts at the same time. Like that's one choice. Now it's called Spotify for podcasters. If you have like a MacBook, honestly, GarageBand is a great tool. Or if you even have an iPad, same deal. Like you could plug a microphone into there and just have the students record. Audacity, old school Holly. I got to think you're actually the one who told me about that. It's not something that would work on Chromebooks, but if you have like a PC, Mac, I put Linux on there because we're at KIST and I feel like I can throw Linux references out there. But it's a separate downloadable program. You click, it'll take you to it. It's free. It's basic audio editing, and you can have up to 2 audio inputs at the same time. That means you can actually have 2 microphones recording simultaneously. So you can have like 2 speakers at the same time. This is another paid one. This is the one I used for a few years. It's called Soundtrap. Have you ever played with Soundtrap before? Again, it's paid. And again, I do not work for them, but their stuff, it's actually really, really good. And of all the apps that I've seen, it really is one of the better ones that works on Chromebooks. In the same way that they design it for Chromebooks. In the same way that, like on a Google Doc, you get that real-time collaboration, like you see the audios updating and stuff live. That's what that's what Soundtrap is, where you can have multiple audio stems. That means like, the little audio tracks and things. It's super easy editing. But it's definitely one, like if you're interested in buying like seats or a license, it's definitely one to check out. As a matter of fact, and I just realized I skipped by this, I'll jump back there. My students last year, at the end of the year, they wanted to do their spin. They wanted to do their take on 6 Minutes episode 1. So, that was the one we just listened to. And so we kind of recorded it. We did our own version of it. Good, it's 3 minutes, still good on time. And we actually recorded 6 Minutes episode 1. And we put it in Google Drive. That's usually the easiest way to share this stuff. But we did kind of our spin on it. Oh, come on. Oh, don't do this now. All right. Well, this is one of those. I promise it works, but yay, internet, you do your thing. Anyway, if you click that, I promise it'll work. So those are apps. And then as far as what do you need for tools, right? What headphones should you get? Honestly, if you've got headphones like this, there's always those 3 kids in your class who have them. And for some reason, their parents buy them the one that lights up. It's like, boy, that's not distracting, is it? You can use those if you want. I do recommend ones that are hardwired, which means ones that you plug in, just because it's called latency. There's no delay or anything like that. But, if from your family resource center, if you've got 400 of those, guess what? The sound still goes. And when you plug in, they can hear themselves. Helps a lot with editing too. That way, if students are editing their podcasts, their stories, and they are listening, you don't have to listen to 29 students doing it at the same time, right? Because that gets really old. As far as what mics and things, you don't have to, because again, every Chromebook, every iPad has a microphone built into it. If people ask hey, if we have a budget and we wanted to buy a nice mic, these are the 3 that I would recommend, just because, they get the job done. This Shure MV7, this one right here, it has what's called the XLR cable. That's a mic cable if you don't know what XLR is. And again, the audio quality seems to be a little bit better. A lot of you, you might have one of those in your building from 10 years ago. Those still work fantastic. You get a much better audio sound. What I did this year, our PTA said that they wanted to help out. So we actually got 4 of these little condenser mics. Condenser mics, if you don't know, they're the ones where it doesn't adjust the audio level automatically. Basically, the closer you get to it, the louder it's going to be, the further away. And we found when we're recording, it makes the recording process a little bit more fun. And literally anytime that when we do the recording piece, we put the mics, my little kidney rainbow table in my room. They come little mic stands, they clip right to it. And then we all record we record the episodes one at a time. We kind of jump here. Then I know we're running out of time, so I'll finish up here in a sec. But if you want to have the ability to record, more than one track at a time, or more than one audio track at a time, you do need some type of audio interface. Again, these aren't cheap. Like these are, there's different ones that are available. This is the one that I use. It's called the Focusrite Scarlett. That's my daughter's name too, so I thought that was cool. But 18i8. And what's great about it is it's got the four, see, it looks like, I always think they look like little crosses in the front there. Those are for the XLR, like those mic cables. You can plug 4 of them in, and then you can plug them straight into the into the mics that you use, especially if you use ones that are condenser mics. And you can all sit around the table and record at the same time. Just know that if you're going to use this, that you need to have, have like a Mac or a PC, because the software that you need to run this, it comes with it. It doesn't work on a Chromebook, right? But I've found, and there's the videos they have, super easy setup. We'll walk you through how to do it. And you can be a little intimidated, but once you have it, it's not too bad. All right. So anyway, final step is the publishing piece. Yes, you can go through steps and you can put this on Spotify. Yes, you can make this where it goes to the world and everybody can hear it. Or you can just do what we do and just get a Google Drive file, a folder, and then after you record, after you edit, you export it, you make all the changes, add your sound effects, do all the thing, put in a Google Drive folder, share that link with parents, just that one Google Drive folder. Then anytime a new episode comes out, just email the school, email the staff, email whoever, say, hey, all right, the next episode's done. And then just click this link. They always have the same link. It's always going to be in the same folder. You can go from there, right? Anyway, so, just some examples here, but then share it out when it's done. You kind of go through there. Now, I know I'm out of time, right? But if you want to stick around and ask questions, I can. But remember, I said this is usually a 3-hour workshop. So if you want to see like what some of the other slides that I had on here that we would have time to explore if I had 3 hours, got those on there at the end. But other than that, thank you all so much. I know it's coming up on lunchtime, but love to chat and enjoy Kisti. Thanks, man.